Hello everybody, welcome back. So I apologize if I sound like sick, because I am sick. So I apologize if I sound sick or my voice is just kind of like lower than normal or just more unusual, and that is because I am sick and it has been a week, and as always. So yeah, I'm just gonna do like a little week recap because I can, why not? But when I say it's been a week, I mean that I got sick like I think towards the end of the week, and then not only did I get sick towards the end of the week, but then I had to like super clean everything in my house, mainly because like it just felt sanitary for me, and because I was sick, so I didn't want to get like anybody else sick, and I have to, in my opinion, like I have to have like a clean environment whenever I'm sick. That way it's just easier for me to strive through it and get through it. So yeah, and then on top of that, I've been reading like crazy, so I am happy to say I'm not done. Excuse me. I'm not done with the Powerless book yet, but I have less than 100 pages left, which is super duper exciting. I cannot believe that I have less than 100 pages left. These past few days, I have been cranking it. So yeah, I read like 4 chapters. I've been reading like 4 chapters every day for like this past week. So hard work pays off. I'm gonna drink some hot water really quickly. So yeah, don't mind me. Okay, I finished drinking my hot water, and I think the main reason why I got sick was because it was raining for, like, the first time in a while. Like, it hadn't rained in, like, a good 2-3 weeks, and, like, the weather where I'm at has been really, I joke saying that the weather is bipolar, and what I mean by that is that, like, the last week it was, like, super duper hot, and then this week it's, like, super duper cold and rainy, and it is absolutely wild how fast the weather changes. And it's April, right? So it's like you're kind of transitioning into, like, we're in spring, right? And then we're transitioning into summer in like a couple months, and like, what do you mean it's raining? So it just started raining and it was freezing cold this entire week. So I think that's why I got sick. And also I didn't think it'd be that cold, so I didn't really wear that many layers. And not that I would usually wear layers, but I didn't wear my warmest apparel, and I probably should have because I was freezing. So yeah. Anyways, I've just had, my symptoms aren't too bad. Excuse me. I just have a sore throat and just a little bit of a sore throat. It's not bad at all. And yeah, and that's all the symptoms I've been having. Luckily, no fevers, no chills, no cold or anything like that. I really hope I don't jinx it, but yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and get reading to the do-over. Chapter 13 / Confession 13. We are on the PDF, because I'm reading the PDF. We are on page 137 out of 229. So we are approaching soon towards the end of the book. So yeah. I mean, it's not, we still have a long ways to go, but, you know, we are definitely approaching an end. So we have less than 100 chapters left, 100 pages left. Gosh, we have less than 100 pages left, guys. Wow, that is crazy. Okay, anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Confession 13. I kissed Chris Baker in the back of an RV in 7th grade, and to this day I can't smell polo without remembering how noisy. And I'm not gonna finish that sentence because I don't really know what it means and I don't want to. So we're just gonna move past the confession. Okay. Anyways, when the elevator doors opened, there were 3 guys inside, dressed in suits and expensive haircuts. We stepped in front of them, quietly standing side by side as we rode the elevator car down. I'm about to smash some waffle fries, one of the guys said behind us. I wish they'd bring back Bernie's Pizza. I like the chicken, don't get me wrong, but it's been the only option for too dang long. So go get Bernie's. Nah, bro, I'm too lazy and the cafe is too convenient. I looked at Nick to see if he also thought the way they were talking was ridiculous, and the way he held his mouth a little too tensely told me he was fighting back a laugh too. One of them said, "This is us," when the door opened, and the trio filed out when we scooted out of the way. Nick let out a big breath, but when the doors started to close, he stuck his hand out, and they began opening up again. Quirking one eyebrow in an adorable way, he said, "Hey, you want to go smash some trips in the cafe?" I squealed. "Ooh, do you think we can?" He shrugged. "Why not? If they kick us out now, we already got what we wanted." I started to get excited. My mom never let me eat chicken strips growing up, so they're my favorite secret food now that I only get when I sneak. I knew I was rambling, but I couldn't help it. You know, when she's not around. Who's not allowed to eat chicken strips? His eyes did the crinkle thing as he said, "You poor deprived little book nerd." I laughed at that. "You're right." He gestured toward the elevator's doors. "Let's go then." As soon as we walked out of the elevator, the sounds and smells of the corporate lunchroom surrounded us. We followed in the direction of the dudes, and boom, just around the corner from the bank of elevators was an enormous cafeteria. There were tables in the center of the room, and the food stations all around the perimeter. Everything looked like generic cafeteria food, except for the Chachi's chicken booth, where a generous line was already forming. "Chicken?" he asked, his eyes moving around the corners of the cafeteria. "Chicken," I replied. While we waited in line, he told me about the time his sister ran over the foot of a Chick-fil-A employee in the drive-thru, and I was tearing up from laughter by the time we sat down with our food. "I can't believe she went back over it," I said and laughed. "She said that when he screamed, it was a simple human nature for her to back up to see what was the matter." "There's the logic, I guess," I said. "I guess," he said, dipping a chicken strip into the cup of ranch. "So," I grabbed the table's ketchup bottle and squirted a blob onto my plate. "You said you've never been in love. But, you do believe in it, right?" "Whoa." He tilted his head and his eyebrows went down. "You are persistent. What are you doing, Hornby?" "Learning about my DONC partner. Now, if you're shy, I'll start." In real life, I would never broach this topic of conversation because, of course, I would come off as stifling and pathetic. But I wanted to know things about him, so I was taking advantage of this irascible day. It didn't matter what he thought of this because he'll never remember it. As soon as I thought that, though, I felt a little ache of sadness. I'd been having so much fun, the fact that tomorrow would be a reset and Nick would remember nothing seemed kind of tragic. Okay, so, even though you don't see it very often in real life, I absolutely believe in true love. I think it requires work and logic as opposed to fate, but it's there if you look hard enough. He gave a nod, but he was accepting my point. He wiped his hand on his napkin. "But doesn't that sound like a little oversimplified to you?" "It sounds like a kid saying, 'I believe in Santa.' Yes, of course, it sounds great, but if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is." I dipped a fry in my ketchup. So cynical. "It's not cynical at all." He slid a handful of fries through my ketchup blob and said, "I don't grouchily begrudge love. I just don't expect it to come down my chimney with a sack full of presents." "Love is not the same as Santa Claus." "How is it not?" he asked, picking up his soda cup. "You hope and wish for it, peeking to see if fate has brought one to your doorstep, the one who makes you happy forever." He picked up a strip and I pointed it to him. "It's not the same because you're not relying on magic and pretend. Have you seen a first date?" He took a sip of his pop before saying, "Talk about magic and pretend. How are you even going to get happy?" I asked, taking a bite before saying, "When you're thinking that way." He looked at me and crossed his arms over his chest. "I'm not looking to get happy." I stopped chewing. He didn't appear to be joking. "Are you one of those guys who likes being Brody?" He looked offended, like the suggestion was an insult. "No." "So why wouldn't you want to be happy?" He shrugged and picked up his soda. "I didn't say that I don't want to be happy. I said that I'm not looking to get happy. It's not my goal." I wiped my mouth with a napkin before setting it down on the tray. "But, are you always happy?" he asked, and I got a little distracted by the sight of the Adam's apple. "Okay, we're not. Okay, moving on." "Well, of course not," I said, putting my finger over the top of the straw. but I like to be. I mean, happy kind of is the goal, like for life, right? Well, sure, but because happy is life's default. I pulled the straw from the cup, lifted it to my mouth, and moved my finger, letting the soda drip into my mouth. Content is the baseline. Sometimes we're not, and sometimes we're freaking ecstatic, but happy is also the default. You're absolutely wrong. He set down his cup and looked a little bit intense. Existence is the default. Merely existing. Emotionally is the baseline. Happy is like this floating fluid thing that's impossible to hold on to. Elusive as something. Sometimes you get lucky and have it. Only a matter of time before it slips back out of your hand. I shook my head, trying to figure out how he could have such a bleak outlook. That is the most depressing thing I've ever heard. No, it's not. Yes, it totally is. I dropped everything on the tray, done with fidgeting, because I needed to find a way to change his ridiculous mind. According to your theory, anytime you're happy, you have to sleep with one eye open because it's going to implode at any moment. He gave a surprised little cough of laughter and rubbed his cheek. That's kind of true, though. Who hurt you, Stark? I teased and regretted it the instant he looked at me. Because, man, oh man, there was a whole lot of sadness in his eyes. For just a split second, he looked like a very sad little boy. Then he smirked, and just as quickly as it gone. Who shot you up with happiness, fairy dust, is kind of the bigger question. I'm not happy dust at all. I know that I'm the only one who truly cares about my happiness, so I make it a priority. You should seriously try, like really try, looking at everything in a different light. Now he smiled. Is that so? Yes, I smiled back and said, think about it. On a normal day, you might be thinking, it sucks I have to go to school, he said with a straight face. I would never think that. Education is important. You get what I mean. On a normal day, when you're feeling less than positive, force yourself to change your thinking. Instead of, it sucks that I have to go to school, think, it's such a nice day that maybe after school I will recline the seat of my truck and read a good book while the breeze smells like springtime. Now he flat out laughed at me. Why would I ever think something that ridiculous? How about at least I get to sit next to Emily Hornby and chemistry? Hubba hubba. Really? With that? He said, back on the full sarcastic teasing with his twinkling eyes. Oh, like you've never thought about the words hubba hubba, he said. I can promise you I have not. Well, what about your friends? Mr. Existence is the default? I leaned on the table, waiting to learn every single thing about him, and asked, how is it that you're absolutely free of high school cliques and drama? I see you around school sometimes, and you appear to have friends, but I never hear about you socializing at all. Never see you at any parties, or football games, or any other school functions. And what's the story? Do you hang with friends and do activities, or are you an actual hermit? He looked over my shoulder like he was watching someone or thinking about something, and I expected him to give me a I lost the page. Oh, there we go. And I expected him to give me a smart non-answer, but then he said, I used to hang with my friends a lot more, but somewhere along the way, I stopped caring about everything in high school. It just feels so pointless. Not learning all of the games. His eyes landed on mine, and he looked intense. Sometimes I try to power through, though. I'm not a hermit, as you so delightfully put it, but it just feels meaningless. Oh, I didn't know what to say to that. Well, maybe if you treat it, swear to God, Hornby, I will lose if you tell me to be positive. That made me smile. Well, it wouldn't hurt you, you know. One corner of his mouth slid up a smidge. I think it might, actually. Confession 14. I once wrote Beth Mills Smells on a bathroom stall at my junior high after she told everyone that summer camp had attended was actually asthma camp. Huh? Sorry, guys. Let me read that one more time. I once wrote Beth Mills Smells on a bathroom stall at my junior high after she told everyone that the summer camp I attended was actually asthma camp. Okay, that makes more sense. After leaving the first bank building cafeteria, Nick gave me a piggyback ride to the tattoo shop, letting me bury my cold nose in his neck without complaining. And when he finally stopped, he straightened and I climbed down. The 402 ink storefront looked cool because it had no markings at all, other than a red neon sign at the bottom of the window. He pulled open the door and I followed him inside. He said over his shoulder, "Getting scared?" "Not at all. Bring on the needling." I strolled through the lobby where there were drawings of tattoos all over the walls and ceilings. I was nervous, yes, but mostly I was excited. Getting a tattoo was something I never considered, something I would have done if I had the guts to do before this whole repeating days fiasco. Now, however, it felt like something I had to do while I had a free pass. It was severe, however, temporarily, as a painted reminder of the day where, for once, I did what I wanted to do instead of what I thought I should do, instead of doing what everyone else expected. I barely had a chance to take it all in before I heard Nick say, "Is Dante working today?" I raised my eyes from the wall and looked at him, standing in front of the reception desk. "So you do have a contingent." He just looked over at me and winked. I'd always thought winking was cheesy until that day. Nick's winks made me warm and melty. The person I assumed to be Dante came out of the back room after they did a whole handshake thing, while I strode the room, looking at the pictures. After a solid 10 minutes of low talking, I heard Nick say, "What are the odds that you could fit my friend Emily in this afternoon?" "Sure." Dante glanced over at me and said, "Do you know what you want? And you have an ID?" I pulled my ID out of my pocket, walked over to him, and ran a hand through my hair. "Yeah. Here, it's just 7 words. I took a screenshot of a font I like." "What 7 words?" Nick put his hand in his pocket and looked at my ID suspiciously. "None of your business." "That's 4, Dante said. "Keep in mind that this is on you for life, Hornby," Nick said. I don't know why, but I really liked it when he called me by my last name. Erdoy, Stark. But little did he know that I'd wake up tomorrow morning on another February 14th, skin fresh and uninked. Dante had to go help someone who walked in after us, and Nick gave me a look. He leaned closer, lowered his voice, and asked, "Why do you have a fake ID?" My face got warm as I stuttered, I'm not going to tell on you." He nudged me with his elbow, and my stomach went wild with butterflies. His deep voice rumbled out, "I just can't believe bookish Emily Hornby has a fake library card, maybe, but a fake driver's license, not so much." I felt a little less ridiculous and said, "Chris works with the guy who bought some kind of black market machine and he practiced it on us." His mouth dropped open into an O. "Chris? Ultra nice Chris from drama?" "Yup." He shook his head and smiling. "You goody-goodies are out here ruining the world." "Who knew?" "Ready?" Dante was back, and I followed him into a room. Grateful Nick was with me. I was actually a little nervous. When I showed Dante what I wanted, one of my favorite lyrics, Nick said, "Are you sure? I mean, I get that you're being brave today, but in a few years, or even in a few hours, you might regret having that tattooed on your skin." "Believe me, I know what I'm doing," I said. I didn't, or at least with the regard to the technicalities of the tattoo, I didn't. I started to get nervous as Nick sat down on the chair to my left, and Dante grabbed the stool to my right. After Dante wiped down my forehead, rubbed on my temple, and turned on the gun, I quickly learned just how painful getting a tattoo was. I mean, yeah, it was relative. It wasn't like getting a tooth extracted or getting stabbed in the face with a screwdriver, but it felt like someone was sticking a needle in my arm and then dragging it down my skin. Because, there were. "So how do you guys know each other?" I felt like the need to say something as Dante leaned over my arm and worked me over, even though I knew exactly how they knew each other. "Just from Nick's tattoos?" Nick said, "You're so nosy. He works here." Dante didn't glance up, but said, Stark's our little newbie. He didn't tell you that?" I raised an eyebrow and grinned at Nick, and he gave me a head shake while half smiling. Looking at his face made me think of the almost kiss, and I don't even know if my face changed or not, but his did. His jaw flexed and his eyes were hot as the moment hung there. It felt like they were an invisible string pulling me in his direction, an invisible string that had an electrical current that was actually felt stronger than the needle dragging through my skin. I swallowed and blinked. what had Dante just said? No, he failed to mention that detail. What, are you ashamed of us, Nickel? Dante teased. Nick said, she's too nosy and doesn't get to know things. That made me snort. Whatever, Nicky. Dante thought that was pretty funny, but I couldn't laugh because Nick was looking at me like that again. The intensity of his gaze rendered me incapable of all thought and communication as Dante grunted and muttered syllables while finishing my tattoo. When Dante was finally finished, he showed me the tattoo and I gasped, lightly running my fingers around the newly inked spot on my arm. Wow, this is incredible. I had a marvelous time ruining everything. I loved it. Dante left the room to go get something, and Nick stood. He stepped closer to me and slid his hand under my forearm so that he could raise it to my eyes. My breath got stuck in my chest as he moved his thumb just under the tattoo, ever so softly, while he was so close to me that I couldn't remember what the world looked like beyond his face. I like it, he said, his thumb still brushing back and forth over my skin. It felt like he was talking about more of the tattoo as his face hovered over mine, an inch away. Let me just put this on your arm, Dante said, as he charged back into the room, a tube of something in one hand and saran wrap in the other. And you can be on your way. Nick took a step back, and I was too shocked to do anything other than nod and try to make my heartbeat slow down. Nick walked out of the room, and Dante talked to me about how to take care of the tattoo, while he put salve on it and covered it with a bandage and plastic wrap. I barely listened, knowing that the tattoo would be gone when I woke up on another February 14th. When Dante led me out of the lobby, my DONC partner was standing over the front door, talking to a guy with spiky black hair and tattoos all over his arms. My cheeks got instant hot when Nick glanced over at me, and I quickly followed Dante to the counter. I paid, and when I was scanning the receipt, Dante said, "How'd you get the little hermit to come out and play?" I actually bullied him into coming. I handed him the piece of paper, and he smiled a real nicely warm smile. Well, I'm glad Nicky's grown up too fast since the accident, and he needs to have a little fun. Accident? I glanced behind him to make sure Nick didn't hear that or think that I was being nosy. Nick was in an accident? Not Nick. Eric. Eric? His brother. Today's the anniversary? Nick came over and straightened the lookbook on the counter. You ready, Hornby? He didn't look like he had overheard anything, and I couldn't help but feel like I stumbled upon something Nick didn't want me to know. I nodded and cleared my throat. Ready, Stark. Nick said goodbye to his friend, and I yelled, "Thank you!" as we walked out the front door. Jesus, it's cold, Nick grumbled, zipping up his jacket. I hugged my own jacket. No, his jacket, tighter on my body. Have I thanked you for the delightful coat? No problem. He looked at me, and his eyes roamed down over the big coat before he got a funny expression on his face. He swallowed visibly, and his jaw flexed, and he was quiet for a moment before he finally clearing his throat and said, "Where are we going next?" I glanced to my left and pointed to the ladder beside us, and that ran at the side of a squatty brick building. My eyes followed its upward trajectory, and it looked like the building was only a few stories high. All I wanted was to distract Nick from whatever had just made his face look sad. And when you combine that with the fact that it was the DONC, climbing on top of a rooftop seemed like a great idea. Nope, Nick said, because we were already up on a balcony. Because if we're going up on a roof, we're taking something hot to drink. He turned his attention from the ladder to me, and I know a better spot. Come on. He grabbed my hand and pulled me, tugging me closer as he started walking down the sidewalk. His legs were so much longer than mine that he was practically dragging me. Slow down, I said and laughed. It's too cold for slow, Em. He paused to a stop, turned around, and gave me his back. Get on. Again? I asked, a little breathless over the intimate use of my nickname. I can walk faster. You don't have to carry me like a small child. He looked at me over his shoulder. Nah, I like it. Keeps me warm, and I get buzzed on your perfume. We shared a funny smile before I climbed on, like we were wordlessly acknowledging this attraction. I wrapped my arms around his neck, and he said while grabbing my legs and holding them tighter against his body, "Let's go." He took off, walking so fast that it was the speed of my run. Luckily, there wasn't much pedestrian traffic, so it was easy for him to trudge down the street with the passenger clinging to his body. You okay back there, Hornby? I'm getting heavy, aren't I? getting. Shut up. I could feel the vibration of his laugh through his back, and I laughed too, turning my legs around him and earning another laugh. He went another block, then put me down when we got into a small coffee cart at the corner. Thrive Coffee appeared to be a charmingly restored camper that was all shiny wood and contemporary finish. Nick, the person who was working, looked at us through an ordering window and said to Nick, "I saw your parents yesterday, and your mom still looks mad at me." Nick grinned and said, "You wrecked your car. Does this surprise you?" The guy, his name tag said Tyler, and he looked like he was probably in his early 20s, laughed and started telling me a story about the time Nick gave him a ride to work in his mother's car and it got stuck in the snow. Apparently, Tyler was supposed to give the car a little gas when Nick was behind it and pushed, but Tyler thought it would make more sense to gun it and blow that thing out of the snowbank, which resulted in the car shooting forward, swerving, and slamming it into a parking meter. Nick was full on laughing. Ty got out of the car, looked at the damage, and then seemed genuinely offended by what the parking meter had done. It was kind of amazing, witnessing Nick looking totally happy. I was almost overcome with the desperate need to do whatever necessary to make him like that all the time. "This is Emily, by the way," Nick said to Ty, and we exchanged nice to meet yous. Then Tyler asked, "Shouldn't you kids be in school right now?" "We actually should," Nick said, turning his smile on to me. "This criminal convinced me to ditch with her. Now she wants to climb onto a roof in the cold like this is a goddamn movie." "Nice," Tyler nodded in approval. "Taking her through TJ's then?" Nick nodded. "Yeah, but we need hot drinks first." "The usual, big man?" "Make it 2. Tyler disappeared from our line and sight to make our drinks, and I said, "Who are you, Nick Stark?" He narrowed his eyes, and a gust of wind blew between us when he said, "What do you mean?" "I mean, people our age don't have actual lives. We hang out with school friends and maybe, drive to the mall, but here you are," I said, gesturing at the coffee stand and downtown buildings with grown-up friends and, a downtown life. "Are you a secret agent? Are you actually 40? His eyes moved all over my face because he said in a low voice, "I could tell you, but then I would have to kill you." They always say that, but do they really have to murder? I had my blowing hair behind my ears and said, "Can it be I could tell you, but then you have to promise to make it a secret forever?" 2 large mochas, extra chocolate, doubled whipped cream. Tyler appeared in the window and with 2 huge paper coffee cups. I looked at Nick, who clearly had a massive sweet tooth, and said, "I have a cavity just from hearing that order." "Right?" Nick grabbed Nick's debit card and started talking about someone I didn't know hearing up the order, and I just watched. Nick seemed so comfortable, so warm when he was with his friends, and that was a side I hadn't seen before. At school, he'd always just seemed like he was trying to get through the day without having to talk to anyone. This was so different. After we finished the coffee at the coffee stand, Nick led me 1 block over where we went inside an unmarked apartment building. He refused to answer any questions, simply walking ahead of me. We took an elevator on the top floor, went down a long hallway into a maintenance closet, and then Nick gestured to a ladder and sat between 2 rusty boilers and looked like it led up to a cage. "I'll go first and open the hatch if you hold my cup." I blinked. What? What hatch?" He held out his steaming drink and said with his eyes on me, "Do you trust me?" I just nodded and held out my free hand. "Good girl." He gave me his cup and then turned and started going up the ladder to God knows where. I heard his shoes on the middle rung, and then all I could hear was the sound of hardware before a gust of icy wind blew around me, and the boiler room was flooded with light. "I'm coming for my coffee," I heard him say as he climbed back down. "So don't try to climb with full hands." A second later, his legs come down in front of me, and he grabbed his coffee. "You should probably go up first. So if you slip, I'm here to break your fall. Do you think you can climb one-handed? If not, I'll leave my cup down here, and I can carry yours." "Wow." I looked up at the chute and said, "So chivalrous." He raised his eyebrows at me. "And we are going to skip that part." Once I got to the top of the ladder and stepped out onto the roof, I was assaulted by freezing cold winter air. Nick emerged from behind me, and before I could even look around, he said, "Close your eyes." I did, but I said, "This seems like a bad idea on a roof." I know, he said, and I felt him grab my free hand and start to lead me. "But I promise not to kill you. I just don't want you to see it up here until you're in the perfect spot. I already saw the city from the 42nd floor. How different can this be?" You have no idea. I let him maneuver me, leading me around things until finally he stopped. His breath was warm on my cheek as he leaned in close and said in a quiet voice, "Okay, Emmy, open your eyes." Alrighty, guys. So I know that was a bit of a shorter chapter. We read chapter 13 and 14. I feel like these chapters kind of get shorter and then they kind of get longer. Chapter 15 is quite a little long. I'm going through it right now. It starts on 150 and then ends on 160. So it's about 10 pages. And I'm on the PDF, like I've been saying. I'm not actually on the book, so it's probably a lot less on the book. But 10 chapters for me is quite a bit. 10 pages for me is quite a bit. So we're just going to stop right there and then just read Confession 15 the next time. But I hope everybody has an amazing day, an amazing week, an amazing month, an amazing first half of 2025. And I will see y'all next time with another episode. Bye.